Hi, I'm State Representative Doyle Heffley, and welcome to this edition of Legislative Report. We're coming to you from the Pennsylvania Farm Show, the 102nd Pennsylvania Farm Show, and we're kicking off this edition of Legislative Report here in the Christmas tree exhibit at the Farm Show because Christmas trees are one of the largest agricultural products coming from Carbon County. I'm standing here between two trees from Carbon County. This is a Fraser fir from Crystal Springs Tree Farm, and there is a Douglas fir from Crystal Springs Tree Farm. Crystal Springs also has the Capitol Christmas tree, the Pennsylvania Capitol, and also the White House Christmas tree. So we have many great tree farms throughout Carbon County. And I just took my tree down last week, as many people did, but it's great to see here so many beautiful trees. So remember, when you're out there shopping for a Christmas tree next year, buy local and support our local agricultural products. Today we're going to be walking around the farm show, interviewing some of the different exhibitors and talking to you a little bit about why agriculture is such an important part of the Pennsylvania economy. 1 in every 7 jobs in Pennsylvania is somehow related to agriculture. So we're going to be talking about invasive species. We're going to be talking to some of the local ag growers here and talking also to some of the people that have livestock. So stay tuned, and we're going to be checking in from several different locations throughout the farm show today.
Before you walk through the door on your visit to the Pennsylvania Farm Show, take a look across the street. The Pennsylvania Veterinary Lab is what you'll see. The lab is part of the Pennsylvania Animal Diagnostic Laboratory System, which also includes the Penn State Animal Diagnostic Lab and Penn's New Bolton Center. While each has a specialty, all 3 perform the same basic functions.
One, if animals become ill, and so the laboratories help to diagnose problems, whether it be infectious or whether it be toxicological. And so animals, when they become ill, or farms have problems across herds or flocks, then those problems are identified, and then the farmer and his veterinarian can help to solve the problem. The other major role that the laboratories serve is a sort of a quality assurance for infectious disease control. So if animals have to be exported across state lines or across international borders, the laboratory assures that those animals are free of disease and they can be sold safely to other consumers.
Chronic wasting disease, avian flu, rabies, and foot and mouth disease are some of the diseases most commonly tested for and diagnosed at the lab. By finding and eradicating them, the lab is helping farmers and consumers.
One of the real challenges with agriculture today is to make agriculture sustainable and efficient. And so disease limits the productivity. Disease is a welfare concern. And so by keeping animals healthy, it's very valuable for Pennsylvania in that it keeps our farmers productive and profitable. At the same time, by keeping animals efficient and minimizing disease, that minimizes the impact that they have on the environment. It becomes a win-win-win situation. The other part of that is we are very concerned about food safety, pathogens, bacteria and viruses, and or toxins that may be in the food. And so by being active in screening for those types of undesirable qualities, we are assured the public that the very highest quality of food leaves Pennsylvania farms to enter the market.
The lab has earned a number of accreditations and certifications that speak to the quality of the facility, the soundness of its practices, and the capabilities of its employees. Lab Director Dr. Tiwari details one of the designations.
This laboratory is also one of the 14 National Animal Health Lab Network laboratories that operate at a Tier 1 level. What Tier 1 level means is that not alone that we would be providing testing services for our own state in a case of epidemic of disease where major casualties happen in animal population, but we'll be helping out other states in the surrounding area. And that credential is vested on us based upon our expertise, the equipment, the building, and the people that are part of the lab system.
The team is also constantly working to shorten the turnaround on test results so that a diagnosis can be given and the farmer and vet can begin treating the sick animal more quickly. Supported in part by state tax dollars, the lab is an investment in safeguarding people from infectious diseases, providing safe food, and improving animal health.
I go and look at many other diagnostic labs. And we are very unique in Pennsylvania. We're blessed to have an institution like this 3 different laboratories working as one lab system, and we test close to more than 500,000 samples a year in assuring that the animals are healthy, they're producing safe food for our consumption every day.
And we are back here at the Spotter and Lanternfly exhibit, and we have these 2 fine folks from the Berks County Penn State Extension. We have Tina Ehrig and Dee Kirscher, and they're going to talk to us a little bit about what we should be aware of when dealing with this. Is a very invasive species and an insect that can have a devastating effect on agriculture and the trees in the forest throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Now, it is Carbon County, the 122nd, is in that impact area. They have identified that the spotter and lanternfly has been there. So if you could just maybe elaborate a little bit on where this insect came from, how it got here, and why it's so important that people are aware of it and what we can do.
Okay, it came from China, and it probably came in on shipping pallets about, I think they're saying 2012. It wasn't discovered here till like 2014. And right now they're in their had laid their eggs, and right now what we're doing is recommending that they scrape the eggs off, because it does make an impact, especially on the grape industry when they're in their nymph stage. There's 2 nymph stages that they get in and they suck the vital juices out of the vines, and it's mostly devastating to the grapes right now, and it will make spots on fruit, and they get in the hardwood trees, and it's like a plague.
And we're seeing a burgeoning wine industry in Pennsylvania, so obviously grapes are very important to that. Now, if somebody was to go out and identify an egg sac as being, obviously people identify the gypsy moth egg sacs, and I believe to get rid of the gypsy moth, they scrape the egg sac and you can put it in. They suggest Dawn liquid dish soap. Now, if you were going to scrape the egg sacs off of something and to get rid of the spotter lanternfly, what would you, if you scrape them off, is it good to just knock it on the ground, or should you put something on it, or what's the best to use?
You want to use a scraper the size of a credit card, something like this, and scrape it into a plastic bag, maybe with a little alcohol, or as you said, Dawn dishwashing detergent, and that will kill them, and then you want to seal them up and dispose of it properly. Many homeowners are concerned about how can they get rid of them immediately. Beyond finding the egg cases, they want to know how to get rid of the nymphs and the adults. And
sure, you can hold that.
Yeah,
you can hold up this exhibit. Maybe the camera can see it. But these are the different stages.
Right. The nymph might be black with white spots, or red with black and white markings. They will crawl up on ailanthus trees particularly, but also on black walnut and maybe maples. You can use sticky bands on the trees, and that will catch the nymphs. Unfortunately, when the adults form, they avoid the sticky bands and will do everything to get around them, so you can't catch them that way. I've seen it recommended where you can wrap sticky bands on a butterfly net and then go after the tree branch with the net, that kind of thing. But beyond that, chemically, you can kill them with, there's a list that Penn State provides of either systemics to treat the soil under a tree, or there are some contact insecticides you can use. The problem with that, obviously, is with the contact insecticides, it's going to kill honeybees and butterflies, and people are very concerned about that. So it's a problem.
So if somebody wanted to get a little bit more information, maybe they have some grapevines out back, or they have maybe some small produce trees, or even large produce trees, how would they go about to contact the Penn State Extension? I know in Carbon County we have the Penn State Extension office. It is located in right outside of the Mock Chunk watershed, and you can go on the website, to the Penn State website, and find the different extension offices. What would that website that they would seek to, if they wanted to find information on the extension in their area?
You would go to, is it psu.edu?
Department of Ag for updated, or extension, psu.edu/spotted lanternfly. And that'll give all the updated information as they get it. I know they're trying to find more funding to help find out what will exactly kill it without hurting the environment or produce, because you're spraying produce. That's not good either.
One of the important considerations is not to move things that might spread the range of the spotted lanternfly. It's a Herculean task, but people need to look under their cars and maybe under their trailers. They need to look on patio furniture, kids' toys, firewood, anything that's left outside. The spotted lanternfly is very good at laying its egg mass in protected areas. So you really have to look and scrape. And each female will lay 200 eggs at a time. So you're really doing a good deed if you can get rid of some egg masses. Yeah.
And I know it's there's been a lot of emphasis lately put on the fact of firewood. So if as like myself, my family, we love to go camping. And so if you're going to go camping, don't take firewood with you. Get that firewood, even if you're just going from Carbon County to, say, Sullivan County or Lycoming County, because right now the spotted lanternfly isn't in those areas, and I don't want to be the person that introduces it. So I know a lot of times it's kind of, people don't really comprehend or fully understand how these insects, how they travel, and what devastating effect they can have in certain areas. So it certainly is something, if you want to check out the Department of Agriculture or the Penn State Extension websites for some more information. But this is something that is in Carbon County. It is going to impact our agricultural industries in Carbon County, as well as it will just the trees in your backyard. We've already been hit hard by the gypsy moth over the last couple seasons. And definitely want to get that information out. In the upcoming months, we're going to be having a Sportsman and Outdoor Expo in Carbon County, and we're going to have a lot of information on not just the spotted lanternfly, but all the different invasive species. So thank you so much, Tina and Dee Dee, for your time, and keep up the good work in spreading the information about the spotted lanternfly throughout the farm show this week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're at the Penn State booth here at the farm show, and now Penn State has a huge presence here at the Pennsylvania Farm Show every year. I mean, you have like a whole corner dedicated to Penn State between the extension and all the different opportunities that Penn State brings and into the farming community. Obviously, Penn State was a land grant university set up through the Commonwealth to provide that assistance for agriculture. And I mentioned earlier in the program, 1 in every 7 jobs in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is somehow related to food production. So obviously this is very important. Carbon County, the 122nd district, Christmas trees are one of our leading agricultural products, but we have many other farms in our area. So we are here with Jean Loney. She is the Director of Student Recruitment at Penn State. And Jean, if you just want to talk a little bit to the folks back home about why they should come out to visit the farm show and what Penn State has to offer to students and just to the community.
Absolutely. We're really excited to be here at the 102nd Pennsylvania Farm Show. In 1855, we were founded as the Farmers High School of Pennsylvania. As you mentioned, we were designed to give a practical education to people coming from farms. And if you fast forward, while only 2% of our population is actively engaged in production agriculture today, all of us rely on it. It touches our lives multiple times, whether it's food, fiber, fuel, medicine, all of that. So we're really excited to be here at the Farm Show to help tell that story. Being the land grant in Pennsylvania, it's our mission to educate students. It's also our mission to create cutting-edge research so that we can help care for animals, care for the environment, produce food. And then on top of that, we extend it through extension. We want to make sure that that research goes out to every citizen of Pennsylvania, everyone in the Commonwealth, whether they live here, they work here, they visit here. We play a role in what they're doing in Pennsylvania, and we're really proud of that. It's important to us to be the land grant. It's also really important to be here at Farm Show to help tell that story. So if you come by the Penn State booth, you're able to learn about food safety. We've got some wonderful extension educators that are here talking about how to prepare food, can food, store food. We're talking about watershed management. Pennsylvania provides 50% of the fresh water to the Chesapeake Bay watershed. We want to talk about that as a resource and how much water we have and how to care for our land and our resources. We also have presentations from master gardeners that are going on here. And then the part that I'm involved in is that student recruitment arm. So meeting with young people and helping them understand all of the different opportunities that are available in agriculture. Each year there are almost 58,000 job openings in the United States for students that have a degree in the agricultural sciences. It's also the 5th highest paying degree in the United States. So no matter what you're interested in, if it's science, if it's economics, if it's animals, if it's business, there's a component in agriculture that can give you this wonderful career path. So we're here to talk to students about those opportunities and how they can turn their passions into professions.
Well, thank you. I think you covered every question that I was thinking about. So that's awesome. Thank you for spending some time with us today. I definitely want to encourage folks back home to take the opportunity. If you're at the farm show, it's wonderful to just walk around and see all the different agricultural products that Pennsylvania has to offer, between hardwoods, trees, livestock. We have wineries here, cheese. There's a lot of opportunities, and everybody always has to eat. It's one of those jobs that it's always going to be around. So I thank you for your time and spending a little bit to chat with us and explain why Penn State has such a big presence here and how important Penn State University is to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Athletics is a big part of it.
It's a piece of it.
But it really is about Penn State Ag and what they're doing for what is the leading industry in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Jean.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
We are at the cheese stand, I guess, Pennsylvania Cheese Guild. And we're walking around the farm show, and such awesome exhibits they have here, and they have some great samples. And I got talking to introduce you to Dave Rice, and he is from the Clover Creek Cheese Cellar, and he's going to talk a little bit about what's the differences in different types of cheeses, what does it take to make cheeses, how do you know if you're going to have Swiss cheese, cheddar cheese, blue cheese, and why Pennsylvania is such a great state for cheese production.
I'll just kind of go through the steps here of making cheese, and I explain what the differences are as we're making that cheese, what makes it different. The first thing we try to start with is the best quality milk we can, which in our case comes from the cows on our dairy farm. And we're milking, right now we're only milking 10 cows, but we're seasonal dairy, so in the summertime we're milking up to 60 or 70 cows, and we make most of that milk into cheese. On our farm, the milk comes directly from the milking parlor into the cheese vat, and that's where this would start. You start with preparing the milk. My wife and I usually milk, and then one of our sons comes out and they start the cheese making process. They will add the cultures, which ripens the cheese. There's different cultures you can add depending on which kind of cheese you're making, so that's one of the first differences that makes your differences in cheese is what kind of cultures you use.
And now, first off, is the milk pasteurized before it goes into the cheese process?
We are 100% raw milk cheese.
Okay.
So Pennsylvania is one of the places that we can sell raw milk, bottled raw milk, under Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture rules, and also make raw milk cheeses. The only regulation on raw milk cheeses is that you have to age them 60 days before you can sell them. So all of our cheeses are aged at least 60 days.
And when you talk about adding cultures to ripen, what do you add?
That's a freeze-dried bacteria that you add. When I do school tours, I always ask the kids, so are bacteria good or bad? And most kids know that bacteria can be good or bad depending on what you do with it. So those good bacteria go into the milk, and what they're actually doing is they're actually changing the lactose, which is milk sugar, into lactic acid. So what most people don't realize, even if you are lactose intolerant, aged cheeses you can eat because they actually have very little lactose in them. So those bacteria in the milk start working in there, and the way we check whether or not that bacteria is working is we check the pH on the milk. And as you're making cheese, you want the pH on that milk to continually drop. And that's one of the things that makes aged cheese safe to eat and to age, is because the pH is low enough that once the good bacteria are done working on it, there's no bad bacteria left either, that they pretty much killed out anything else in there. So the first step there is that culturing and ripening time, and then after your milk is cultured long enough, we add rennet, and rennet is a natural enzyme that makes that milk get thick. And so what you'll have then is a great big vat full of what looks almost like yogurt or jello. Okay. And that's when you do the next step. You cut the curd, you take a special knife. Ours is fishing line in a big square, and then we run that through. You run it through one direction, you run it through three directions to end up with little cubes about that size, and those cubes become the curds, and then the liquid that's left is the whey. So if you've heard the poem about Little Miss Muffet, her curds and whey, the whey is a liquid that you get rid of, and the curds become the cheese. So this is a picture of the curds after they're processed a little bit. Depending on which kind of cheese you're making, again, depends on how long you cook that curd. Cheddar we usually cook for about 2 hours. A Swiss cheese you would cook longer than that because you want a harder curd to make that kind of cheese. The whey is drained off and you're left with the curds. On our farm, we feed the whey to our baby calves, and they love that, so we don't It's not a waste product. It's nutrition for the calves. And when you're cheddaring, you pile your curds together and you end up with blocks of curds like this. And cheddaring is actually a verb. It's something you do to cheese. For an hour and a half, you turn those blocks of cheese to a different side. Every 15 minutes, you turn it to a different side, and that's the cheddaring process.
Wow.
Now, the Swiss cheese, you would not cheddar. You would actually just take those cheese curds and put them into, actually, it's taped down.
Okay.
But there's a cheese form or a cheese hoop
Okay.
that you put those curds in, and then you press that to make a Swiss cheese. The cheddar is actually more work because after those blocks are cheddared, you take a milling machine and cut those back up into cheddar curds, which I don't know if you ever had cheese cheddar curds.
Yeah.
They're really delicious. And then you take those cheddar curds and press them into a mold.
Okay.
So that would be the difference. And then you press them cheddar on our operation. We press 24 hours because you want it pressed good and hard.
Yeah.
Swiss, you don't press as hard. That goes 4 or 5 hours. And at 4 or 5 hours, you have nice wheels that look something like that. The Swiss, you would actually then take those wheels and put them in a brine for up to a day and a half. And that's how you salt the Swiss cheese.
Okay.
Cheddar, at this stage, you actually add the salt to it at that stage.
Okay.
So you're actually adding the salt right in with the cheese as you're making it. So those are some of the differences between the cheddar and the Swiss.
Now, how long, start to finish? So from the time you milk the cow until you're turning Swiss cheese out to the market, or cheddar cheese out to the market, what is the timeline?
For us, because we are raw milk cheeses, it's 60 days.
Okay. 60
But
days.
actually in the morning, going from milking in the morning to wheels like this on a Swiss cheese, we would do that all with one day.
Okay.
Usually by 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, they would be in the brine, getting their salt that way. Cheddar, till we're done cheddaring it and packing it, getting it in the wheels, it's 4 or 5 hours. It's 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And then once they're in the press, we turn them in the press every hour for 4 or 5 hours. So a cheddar, somebody will actually be out there till 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then we'll come out the next morning and take it out of the press and put it back on the aging shelves at that point.
Wow, so when they say farmers or people that make cheese don't get much rest, that's a lot of work that you're doing on a repeated basis every day, and then you're delivering what is very good, and we just had some samples earlier, a very good cheese. Now you're located in Williamsburg, Pennsylvania. It's a Clover Creek cheese seller. So if anybody is interested in contacting you, they can. Do you have a website or?
Website, and yeah, that's the easiest way to get a hold of us is through the website or email.
All right, so I would just definitely encourage everybody, if you want some Pennsylvania PA preferred cheese that's made right here on a small farm, to contact them, or you can contact any of the local dairy farms or cheese manufacturers throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, like we said many times, agriculture is about jobs and food production, and we have some of the best cheeses here in the nation. So. David, thank you so much for your time and explaining to the viewers how you make cheese. So next time you're making a cheeseburger and you get that slice of cheese and throw it on, you know a little bit what goes into the process.
A lot of work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care. We just talked a little bit about cheese in the state of Pennsylvania, and now what goes with cheese but wine. So we're here with Dean Miller, who is one of the owners of the Armstrong Valley Winery in Halifax, PA. And Dean, if you could just maybe explain to our audience a little bit about what makes Pennsylvania a great state for winery. I know you have some of your selection here. Maybe talk a little bit about the wines that you bring here to the farm show, and what agriculture and wine and the wine business has to do with a strong economy in the state of Pennsylvania.
Well, I think Pennsylvania is kind of on the back burner sometimes with wine and wineries, but it's really grown recently a great deal. I think because it's called terroir, or the climate, the dirt is great for making wine, and I don't think we get the credit sometimes, Pennsylvania, as far as getting out there and being a good wine. But there are a lot of good wineries and good wine in Pennsylvania, and it's great that the PWA, the Pennsylvania Winery Association, has helped push that a little bit and has made that more palatable to many people who don't know that Pennsylvania wines are pretty good, actually.
Now you have two selections of wine here, and I see there's here at the farm show, if you come out to the farm show, you got to take the opportunity to come over to the wine section, and there's always long lines and samples of wine. But what do you think has been one of your more popular wines that you make at your winery here at the farm show this week?
Well, we have. It's funny because in Pennsylvania there's a lot of sweet wines, so and a lot of people drink sweet wines in Pennsylvania, which I guess is part of that that bad thing with wine connoisseurs. But we also make we have an Armstrong Red, which is kind of a Bordeaux blend, and so that's dry. It's Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot. So that for us that's a real nice dry wine. And then for white, we have a Chardonnay that's dry, also. So it's real nice, and we grow all these grapes in Pennsylvania. We grow our own Chardonnay. So as far as wines that people like, some of them are sweeter, and so we make sweeter wines as well. And you have to do that. You just have to do it.
Now, what goes? Obviously, you're growing these products. You're growing the grapes. You have different ways of purchasing that. How long does it take from the time when they're getting the grapes in to produce a bottle of wine, and what kind of goes into that process?
Well, if you plant a plant, it takes 3 years roughly for that plant to produce because it has to establish a root system. But if the plant's ready and you pick your grapes, you have to process them basically, and then they go into a vat or barrel, wherever you got going on, and then the yeast eats the alcohol, and it becomes eats the sugar and becomes alcohol. So for white wines, it takes at least probably about 9 months from when you start.
Okay.
And red wines will take longer than that, the dry ones. Sweeter ones might take a little less time than the 9 months, but the red, it takes a while. It takes 9 months to even 2 years sometimes to make a good dry wine. Like I said, the sweeter wines, we can do them a little faster, but we don't grow like the apples ourselves for apple wine. So that's a whole nother thing. We don't do that. Yeah.
Now, what all types of wine? Obviously, your red wines, your white wines, your grape wine, but also there's apple wine. I hear peach wine and different types of wine. What all types of wine do you produce?
We have a lot of wines. We didn't bring them all here, but we do have a lot of wines. We have peach and apple and strawberry. We have a mixed berry. We have some chocolate wines. We have like a strawberry with some chocolate in it. We have mixed berry with some chocolate in it. We have some ciders now we make. And then we have also the grape varieties. So we have like a Moscato. We have a Vidal Blanc, which is a really great wine that grows really well in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Chambourcin is a hybrid that grows really well in Pennsylvania. And then we have the French varieties. They call them French vinifera. And that's like Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Chardonnay, those types of wines.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, I can see that you were very busy here this week, and it's we're halfway through the week here at the farm show, and I want to thank you for taking your time to enlighten our viewers a little bit about wine production in the state of Pennsylvania. It's also a lot of jobs. I know legislatively we've done a lot of work to try to open up the market for these independent wineries to be prosperous, and there's part of there's different wine trails that the viewers can go to their local vacation bureaus, and they have different wine trails now in Pennsylvania. Are you part of any wine trails?
We're part of two. We're a Susquehanna Heartland Wine Trail, which is we're at the south end of that going north, and the Hershey-Harrisburg Wine Country, and we're actually at the north end of that, and that kind of goes south toward Harrisburg. So we're a part of two of them.
Well, if you're looking for something to do, maybe a romantic getaway with your significant other, or just spending some time out there, and you want to hook up to one of those wine trails, check out your local vacation bureau and find out what's available in your area. Just remember, don't drink and drive, take the bus and enjoy. Dean, thank you so much for your time, and I wish Armstrong Valley Wineries all the best.